Hi, I'm Talia Sherman, an undergraduate student double concentrating in English and Linguistics. My thesis, tentatively titled The Work of Language, Political, Productive, and Paradoxical Operations, sits in the tension between how language works and the work of language. I come to this project with a strong background in linguistics, and all that comes with a field presupposing its natural object: quantitative methods, scientific framing, and trust in data. I do this project, however, as a humanist, as a scholar committed to mimetic research and questions of reading, perception and production, and narrative. Thus, I'm interested in the work of language when it figures as a semiotic narrative device, when it can tell and show arguments in theory, engender violence, exemplify failure and progress, and elide scientific quantification. I will start with failure and truth by looking at works by Saidiya Hartman and Lee Edelman. Hartman's Venus in Two Acts and Edelman's The Future is Kid Stuff, Queer Theory, Disidentification, and the Death Drive both accomplish their arguments by including that which they rage against. Venus in Two Acts works with the failures of the archive and of language. The Future is Kid Stuff includes linguistic structures emblematic of the essay's central antagonist, our politics of narrative, not our narrative of politics. Both these works invest in the structures, narratives, and epistemic assumptions they find abhorrent. They are failing and succeeding at once. Just as Hartman employs the impossibility of truth, the failures of language, and the paradox of specification and generalization, Edelman deploys both formal convention and profanity to perform resistance against the political. These essays critique data, scientific processes, and they both assume an ever-present libidinal dimension of our politics, or, for Edelman, our literary reality. While these authors invest in very different problematics, they are formally and rhetorically aligned in their relationship to failure. After setting up the foundational questions of my thesis, I will turn to language and violence by looking at works by Hortense Spillers, Terence Hayes, and Jacques Derrida. Spillers' iconic essay, Mama's Baby, Papa's Maybe, an American grammar book, allows for an analysis of the violent work of language and for theorizations of violence. Connecting her ideas to Hayes' American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin and Derrida's Violence of the Letter, I aim to piece together the confounding, violent, productive, and political dimensions of language. For Spillers, we write in and of a symbolic order overwrought with violence. For Hayes, we are locked in an American sonnet. For Derrida, violence is the letter. With questions of failure, success, and violence, I will turn to the ratiolinguistic perspective, an anthropological critique of sociolinguistics and what it stands as a proxy for: liberalism. I am a sociolinguist. I have researched the arbitrary connection between linguistic variance and prestige, and by highlighting the systematicity of all language varieties, I have sought to end the long-standing practice of institutional, technological, and interpersonal linguistic discrimination. Yet I, and so many others, have failed. Language continues to be judged as a proxy for race, class, and gender. Decades of data did not, in fact, unsettle racism. The ratiolinguistic perspective, developed by Jonathan Rosa and Nelson Flores, argues that the subfield fails by design. As long as oversimplified categories of language, race, ethnicity, and gender are variabilized for the sake of science, how could language not remain a medium and a site for discrimination? Ratiolinguistics classifies the reading of populations' linguistic practices as a reinscribing, predictive operation leading to overdetermination. By suggesting that description can become prescription, I argue ratiolinguistics revealed a latent understanding of the paradoxes literary theorists have written about for centuries. Long before 2015, Cleanth Brooks understood the language of paradox and the heresy of paraphrase, although he did not go so far as to isomorphically relate literary studies and science. So we're back to failure, and to truth, and to the violence of failing projects centered around language, all invested in the linguistic turn. I hope to conclude my thesis by establishing a theory of reading for failure. At a basic level, a reading of failure testifies to success because failure has been identified by the reader. If nothing else, I want to ask, why is failure paradoxically successful? Will conceiving of the page as a laboratory ironically free us from the failure-success binary and the limiting axioms of science? If language reflects and refracts, if it demonstrates all that's missing, as well as all that's present from our history, then what exactly must we be ashamed of in our pursuit of semiotic or structural inquiry into language? Thank you.